Hey, what's up? This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. It is Sunday, October 3rd, 2021. I'm Norman London, along with Mike in Buffalo. The next NHL season is quickly approaching. Looking forward to the Leafs and Habs renewing acquaintances to start a fresh slate of games, new hopes, new dreams for the Maple Leafs and all of their fans, including Mike and myself. We're going to talk a little bit about the last day of the baseball season to close out this podcast, but there are a few things Leafs related that Mike and I wanted to get to. What's the big show that's on Amazon right now that has all
or
the
nothing.
fans fussing? Yeah, it makes me
more nothing than all, but
more nothing than all. It just makes me nervous and makes me feel sad because the result of all of that was a disastrous loss to the Montreal Canadiens. There are a few roster battles happening right now, but I guess the big news for us, and I mean, we'll have to put it into context in that overall, it's not that big a deal, but a 2-year contract extension for Sheldon Keefe. I have no issues with that. I am a Keefe guy. I really hope he, within that 2-year window and whatever else he can muster up with the team, conjure up some success amongst the boys, because if he doesn't, he'll be looking for a job elsewhere.
Well, Keefe, has taken over from Mike Babcock, gone through a pandemic, gone through the the challenges of the playoffs in a pandemic bubble, and then in a shortened season where players are getting tested every day and there are no fans, and he's gone 62, 29, and 12, which is a pretty good record. Mm-hmm. But again, we know we gauge success by playoffs and not by regular season. So I was a little surprised, but then when you think the fact he's entering the final year of his contract, they signed him to a 2-year extension, so that gives him a little security. Now, the thing is, everybody has believed that Dubas, Shanahan, and maybe Keefe's jobs are on the line this year if they don't make the playoffs, or if they make the playoffs and lose in the first round. So there's a high barrier to cross here. But the Keefe deal basically gives him essentially a golden parachute if they do clean house at the end of this year. It's funny that I point, because I remembered this. They did the same thing with Randy Carlyle. Randy Carlyle, 7 months before he got fired, was given a 2-year extension. Mm-hmm. So you could look at it two ways. You could say this is a golden parachute for Keefe, or you could also say that the security of Shanahan and Dubas is not tied completely to the success or failure of this season. We know Shanahan has 4 years left on his contract. I think Dubas has multiple years left on his deal. Mm-hmm. So, maybe that the talk of their jobs being on the line. I mean, if they win the Atlantic Division and then lose in the first round again, I don't know. I mean, I know Leaf fans will be calling for blood, but I think this is a statement in the confidence of Keefe. They like him as a coach. They think he's a good coach. I think that the Amazon series that you mentioned, and we'll talk about a little bit, I guess, it showed, sort of, not that he's a player coach, that, he's approachable. He's somebody who can communicate with players, but he'll stick a stick up your ass if you don't do what he wants. He in the series, he basically said to Jimmy Vesey, "You're playing vanilla. You're not playing good enough." And then a few weeks later, he was waived. He had problems with what Austin Matthews said against after a loss to the Edmonton Oilers. The other thing about that is I don't know how much they're playing to the camera and how much that's real. And that's the thing with these series, is the fact that they say, okay, we put cameras in your rooms and we're around for 5 months. I'm sorry, no matter what you do, that a camera's there. So you don't know how much is really real. But getting back to Keefe, I think, he's a good coach. This makes sense. But everything is going to rely on what this team does during the year.
Keefe doesn't let the inmates run the asylum. It may seem that way sometimes, but that's really not the case. And going back to the collapse against the Canadiens in the first round of the playoffs, last spring. What could he have done better in the moment to will this team from behind the bench to a series win over the Habs? What could he have done? And if he wasn't effective enough in that moment, and we can debate that, does that collapse taint this contract extension for fans? Because I am seeing comments like J.A. Scott, why extend Keefe? He's done nothing to deserve the extension. And I'm thinking, well, it's not like he was the problem.
Right.
And is he a superstar coach? Not yet. Is he a guy whose mistakes have been exacerbated by players who don't play for him, or players who are confused by his methods? No. He's just kind of there, and he could have reaped the benefit of a team that and many benefits of a team that got through the first round of the playoffs. But he's among the group that many of us are wanting more from, who didn't get through. I feel like there's no replacement for him. It wasn't really his fault, but then again, he's still part of the group. If Dubas, Shanahan, the core four are pushing forward for another year or two, and one last hurrah to try to make something happen, I don't see why Sheldon Keefe can't be a part of that conglomerate, and he is.
I think, like I said, I think the documentary shows Keefe in a light that people will, believe that. I mean, I don't think it was on Keefe. I don't think it was on Dubas. I think Dubas did everything possible last year to add the players at the deadline, to add the players during the regular season. Again, it was a failure. It was bad luck in the sense that, Anderson got hurt in March. That Tavares got hurt in game one, that Foligno, after coming over, gets hurt 2 games into his Leaf career. But in the end, they were up 3-1, and Matthews and Marner didn't score. And that's, no matter how much they try to shake that off, that's where it is. Would you pointed out the comment about Keefe didn't deserve an extension. Look at it this way. He was entering the final year of his contract. If the Leafs have a big year and they go to the conference final, that's probably going to cost the Leafs.
Yeah.
And MLS and they're made of money, so
it's a preemptive move.
It's a preemptive move, exactly. So they think he deserves it. They signed him for a good amount. He's got security, but if they had a lot of success this year, and he gets all the credit, and he's a Jack Adams candidate, he's going to get a lot more. So that's why they did what they did now, and I think it's a good move. But again, everything rides on what this team does during the regular season and the playoffs this year, and it's going to be a tough road to hoe because the Atlantic Division the competition is going to be fierce.
Yeah, and signing Keefe up to a 2-year contract extension isn't going to overload the financials of the organization. If they have to cut him loose at some point in November because the team is terrible, who cares? Stroke him a check, hang out on a beach for a while, then resurface as an assistant coach in Florida or something like that. And if things go well and they want to keep him around for a longer period, they've already got him signed up and don't have to inflate the value of the contract because the Leafs have finally got over the hump and he was the one leading the charge. This is the Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario. OakRidgeFord.com. 0% continues on Escape and Edge. You can get at me if you're looking for a vehicle through email. You can talk to me on Twitter. I think my number and email addresses for Oak Ridge Ford are out there. Or you can just get at me through community. YouTube.com/The Leafs Convo. We appreciate everybody who is a part of our Leafs Convo Society, whether you're on podcast or you're with the community on YouTube. If you do come back week in and week out and you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do that. You'll get all the notifications that you require. to keep up to date with what we do, and we do it on a weekly basis. We're going to add a few more shows during the week as the season really ramps up. So it's a good idea to keep in touch with us in regards to the content that's on its way, because there will certainly be plenty of it. So, Mike, the 13th is when the Leafs host the Habs, and then there's a game the next night, Toronto at Ottawa. We're expecting the roster to be fully settled, aren't we? And between now, aren't we? And between now and then,
Well, yeah.
positions that are still kind of out there to be won by players.
Well, first of all, I'm expecting a large cut of the roster, the training camp roster, probably today or tomorrow. Maybe they play Ottawa tomorrow night in Canada. They played a blue and white scrimmage to basically get everybody on the ice, because they were playing preseason games in two groups, and normally they have 8 preseason games, but this year they only had 6 because of I have to say the schedule is like 6 preseason games against Montreal and Ottawa, and then they open up the season with Montreal, Ottawa, and Ottawa. They're going to be playing Montreal or Ottawa 9 straight times. It's just a little bizarre, but because of them not knowing the border, what the border restrictions would be, they wanted to start off with not having to deal with that. So, but as for the roster, I mean, there's no challenge in goal. It's going to be Mrazek and Campbell. It's just a question of I think Campbell is the number 1 and Mrazek is sort of the 1B, and he'll get a lot more work than a backup normally gets. But Mrazek played well in the shutout win against the Sens, and I didn't think Campbell played particularly well in his game, but in Montreal. But that was because the Leafs didn't really have a strong crew in there, and Montreal had almost a full NHL lineup. But there's no challenge there, and the only thing that's of concern, again, you've got 2 young prospect goaltenders, Ian Scott and Joseph Wall. Ian Scott, unfortunately, the last 2 years has not, due to the pandemic, due to injury, has played 2 games. He played 5 minutes in one preseason game and pulled his groin again, and he's out for multiple weeks. And, the kid was the CHL goaltender of the year. They had a lot of high hopes for him, but he simply can't stay healthy. And Joseph Wall is supposed to carry the bulk of the starts in the American Hockey League, and it's a minor injury, but he got hurt, so he's not playing right now. So it's just, they're lucky that they have Hutchinson, and they added Eric Shalgren, who was a SHL goaltender, as depth for the organization, because they're going to need it, because the young guys keep getting hurt. Defensively, the battle's the bottom pairing. Riley, Muzzin, Hall, Brody, that all they're safe. I think that there's a 3-way battle between Liljegren, Sandin, and Dermott. It's probably going to end up being Dermott and Sandin. They like what Sandin is doing. He played really well in the last preseason game. I think eventually he's going to end up being the power play quarterback, but right now they're using Riley. That's basically it on defense. It's either going to be, and it could be a sort of a round robin type of situation where, one game they play Dermott and Liljegren, another game they play Dermott, Sandin, and then another game they play Sandin and Liljegren. They could mix and match them, because I don't know whether Liljegren has waiver exemption, and obviously they don't want to lose him being a former first-round pick, and I think they like him as a prospect, but I'll check to see that. But so, I mean, and I'll talk about the forwards in a minute, but if I'm talking too long here, but yeah, it just, I mean,
it's okay, Mike, they come for you, man.
Yeah. But I think up front, the battle is really the left wing. Liljegren is waiver exempt, so they could send him down. And this is the thing: if with that, they may carry 6 defensemen. They may not carry an extra defender, because they're probably going to be tight against the cap. and they have some players that they don't want to put through waivers at up front, and that might be something fairly risky. So forward, the battle is basically bottom six and the left wing. Wow. We talked about Nick Ritchie last week. I think Nick Ritchie is going to get a not long look, but a significant look at left wing with Marner. They played him with Marner all training camp, so they're going to give that a chance. Michael Bunting, I think, has earned so far the left wing on to the Tavares line because he scored 4 goals in the preseason. He scored 3 power play goals against Ottawa. He is stirring the pot on the ice. He's sort of a, I'm not comparing him to Brad Marchand. He's not a big guy, but he likes to sort of get under the skin of players. Curtis Gabriel called him a greasy rat when they were like, he was being interviewed on one of the state on TSN, and Gabriel was coming off the ice and called him a greasy rat. So that's apparently his reputation, and that's good.
Maybe the Leafs need a greasy rat.
Yeah, you need those players. You need pot stirrers. Yep. The question I have at forward, and again, what they do in training camp is not indicative of what they might do during the season. They've played a unit of Mikheyev, Kerfoot, and Nylander. And I wonder whether they're potentially going to split up Tavares and Nylander and have Nylander as a sort of like be the center of the third line, not center, but the focal point of the third line, and have Tavares with Bunting and somebody else.
We don't need a friggin' social media war before the season starts.
Oh, man. Yeah, Jesus, God forbid. David Kampf has played very well in camp. The defensive forward who they signed from Chicago, they played him with Andre Kasha, who they signed from Anaheim. With Kasha, the question is, can he stay healthy? He's got ability. He's scored 20 goals in the NHL before. He's capable, if healthy, of playing the off wing in the top 6. So, but Kampf and him apparently have known each other since they were like 10 or 12 years old. So they're longtime friends, both from the Czech Republic, and they've played together. That might be something that they do on a checking line. I think the guy who's sort of been the unsung hero of training camp has been Adam Brooks. Adam Brooks, if they put him on waivers to send him to the American Hockey League, he'll get claimed. And I'll predict that he's not going to be a star, but he's a good, solid player. That's a player that they should keep on the fourth line. And Pierre Engvall hasn't played. So I have to believe there's an injury, but they've been fairly quiet on that one. So they have some tough decisions up front. They have, they may keep 13 forwards just to 13 or 14 forwards because they may lose some on waivers, but it's going to be real tight in terms of the cap. And they're going to have to make some moves.
Yeah. Granted, Mike, I don't think any of those decisions will have a dramatic effect on how this team performs initially, and certainly the outcome of the season. Our friend Sean Robertson, howdy Norm, howdy Mike. Well, howdy there, Sean. OGs and converts in the chat right now. Let me know what's the one thing you're really excited about with this coming season. To watch Nylander pick up 100 points, Marner go splat, Austin Matthews get traded at the deadline. What's the one thing you're excited about? And Mike, I'll ask you that question. What are you excited about when it comes to this season?
Well,
what makes you want to watch hockey, Leafs hockey,
I see.
And consume everything Leafs and immerse yourself in this culture despite all of the failures? What are you excited about?
I always want to watch hockey. I'm a hockey nerd. I mean, if I'm watching the blue and white game on Friday night, some people say you're a loser and you have no life, but it's like it's my job. It's like but you can skip though. You can. There was somebody who Ken Campbell, formerly of the Hockey News, was commenting on how he's never gone to a preseason game and you don't learn anything. I mean, I think you do learn some things, but what I'm excited for is some of the new players coming in and what they can do, because I think that's going to be the key to this season. Because like a guy like Ritchie, who I've liked, but okay, going back to the 2014 draft, if you remember, Don Cherry beating the crap out of the Leaf organization about not taking Nick Ritchie over William Nylander in that draft. Now they have both of them. Ritchie is a different type of player. He's a big-bodied presence.
Can you imagine if they had?
Well, who knows what Nylander would have been in Anaheim, or you don't know. I mean, that's the thing about like somebody getting picked somewhere else. I mean, yeah, you could take Joe Sakic. It doesn't mean the Leafs could have taken Joe Sakic. It doesn't mean that Joe Sakic would have been Joe Sakic had he played with the Leafs. It was
Rob Pearson would have been a huge star somewhere.
Yeah, there you go, exactly. But I think the excitement here is, I mean, we take for granted the big four. Austin Matthews hasn't played a full practice yet with his recovery from a wrist injury. That's going to be a big focal point. But I think that they're confident that he'll be ready for opening night. So I think that's that if they weren't, I think they'd be warning people he'd be out a couple weeks. But it sounds like he's on track to be there.
Can I just go through some of the comments?
The
question I have for everyone is, what are you excited about? Why are you watching the Leafs this season other than because you're a complete masochist? Let's see. We have Kyle Stoddard. I love Kyle's comments. He just goes off in community. He's not the happiest of Leafs campers right now. He's excited to watch Matthews defend his Rocket Richard trophy. That'll be interesting this year. I think he's capable of it. I mean, could he score 60 goals? I mean, wouldn't that be, if he stays healthy and him and Marner get going, that would be a lot of fun. Jerkball T.O., this guy's amazing. I watch hockey because TV content sucks otherwise.
Come on.
Sure.
You don't like Law and Order SVU?
Yeah. Well, Murder, She Wrote. Mike, we know you watch that.
No.
On what do they call it?
Yeah, I was hot
Vision.
I was hot for Angela Lansbury. Thanks.
Akinzeki Bunting scoring 35 goals this year. Wouldn't that be fun? And that brings up, actually, it's a good point. A guy like Bunting, you could bunt him in on a line with Tavares and Nylander, Marner and Matthews, Nylander, Marner, Tavares. Those the two stars on each line will make anyone who saddles up with them better. So I don't think the concern is who is going to help solidify those lines. It's those four, any which way you configure them, are going to make whomever joins them better. And that is a really good opportunity for a guy like Bunting or Ritchie or whomever you put in there to allow themselves to personally elevate a career with these all-world players. And, we've already seen these guys go mix and match with a cast of characters, and it doesn't matter who is there. Those lines are successful.
Well, prepare yourself for sort of a mix master approach early in the year, because I think they'll play Ritchie on the top line, but if it doesn't work after 10 games or so, then you'll see things move around. They'll play Bunting with Tavares, or they'll play Kasha, or they'll play Mikheyev, and if it's not working, they're going to switch around. They have flexibility; they can move to the wing or play him at the center. They can Kampf gives them, maybe they play him on the third line and have him as a matchup defensive guy. I mean, that's the one thing. I think they have flexibility, and that'll come in hand if they have injuries, which that always happens. But I think you need flexibility when it comes to your lineup. But at a certain point, like I would say probably around 30 games, 35 games, they'll settle into what they think is working, and then they'll stick with that. So expect a lot of, even in game, a lot of changes where Kerfoot comes in and plays on the wing with Tavares on one shift and then goes back to play center. They're going to do that. I think they want that flexibility. Caleb has a thing here about Robertson. I don't think not that Robertson has played badly. He has played well. I think after scoring 55 goals in the OHL 2 years ago and he played 6 games and got injured with the Leafs.
Mm-hmm.
He played about 20, 25 games with the Marlies. I think they want him to get game in, game out, work on the power play, top line with the Marlies, get a lot of playing time, get some experience in a league. He played well in the American Hockey League last year, but the American Hockey League wasn't the American Hockey League last year. You had a lot of bad goaltenders because teams were keeping goalies on the taxi squad, and they only played 25 games. And did they only play like Manitoba?
Well,
Laval?
at the end of the day, you've got to look at you. You're not anointed a first line guy with Matthews and Marner.
Right.
If you're needed to play there for a minute, then that's fine. But you're not anointed. So, he needs to be on the top line. I don't know if he needs to be on the top. He needs to earn his way there. Guys like Bunting and Ritchie and whomever else, Kerfoot or these guys, they've all earned their way at some point, with solid play in the preseason or whatever. Robertson will get there too. I think the point is he's really skilled and dynamic and would fit in quite nicely. But I don't think you need the most skilled person to play with those two guys or even the next two on the second line. Tony Soprano, he's excited for Dubas's last stand. Yes, Tony, that's a good point. What is, especially if the chips are down, what is Dubas going to do to play his cards dramatically and maybe recklessly to try to get this team to where it needs to go, and by extension keep his employment with the Maple Leafs. That's quite interesting. Tim Noseworthy, I'm excited to see if more grit makes for a tougher regular season, meaning maybe less points. But a better chance at having playoff success.
Well, I mean, they had some grit last year. I don't think Curtis Gabriel is making the Leaf roster. I mean, Curtis Gabriel was sort of just an enforcer type. Maybe he gets called up when they play a team like the Rangers or Washington, so he can combat Tom Wilson or Ryan Reeves. But I don't think that they're going to have Curtis Gabriel as on sort of like as a 14th forward. They don't really have the room. I just looked on Cap Friendly with the 13 forwards that we predict that are going to make the roster and carrying 6 defensemen. Mm-hmm. They have $81,000 in cap space. So that means that a guy like Adam Brooks, if he does make the roster, they don't have him on here. That would probably mean that a guy like Engvall will get waived. And if Engvall gets waived, I think they lose him, or maybe they trade him before the season. But you can't carry, even though Curtis Gabriel's making $750,000, you can't put a guy on the roster who's basically a zero, other than being a physical force.
Yeah, it's intriguing, and I'm interested to see how things unfold, and then unfold again, and then unfold again and again, because this season to come for not just the Leafs but every team involved is going to be a marathon, and there are many chapters and highs and lows. I'm just not really excited about any of it. Maybe I'm just overall jaded by everything the Leafs have done in the last 20 years. Am I hopeful? Am I going to watch? Of course. Will there be moments on Saturday where things are exciting and fans are in the stands and Robertson comes in and scores a hat trick, or Marner goes wild, or Nylander goes end to end? Sure, I'll be excited about that. But I'm looking in on the horizon, right? I want to live in the moment, but it's always there. Where can this team get to? Yeah, it looks good today. Where's it going to get to? So that's, I think, this is a good cathartic process for us to come back and relive a week, be excited about what we've seen and what's to come, lament, get it out of our system, and move forward. As much as I want to live in the moment, I've said that I want to, and right now, as what's going on with the roster battles, we're looking forward to the next preseason game. It's always there. The failure is there. Just the skepticism of what where this team is going to be and how it's going to get there, it's all, they prevail, right, Mike? And it's just, I think I'm not alone, right? A lot of us are in the same boat. It's not to say that I'm, and I'm not committed to the combo and committed to the team, but I can't jump for joy that there's another preseason game to come, and who's going to fill out the fourth line, and how will Nick Ritchie score his 12 goals this season? It's not really that exciting, and I think I just need a puck to drop, and I need this team to play, and just to get back into it, and fall in love with this team again, because I really want to.
I think it's understandable for a significant part of the fan base to be jaded after year of disappointment, especially last year where they win the division and they add Foligno, and everybody thinks, okay, finally we're going to have success, and then they do what they've done the last 5 years. Yep. I mean, that's fandom. I understand it, but of course the organization can't look at it that way. They have to sort of, as they say, they have to flush what happened last year, and they have to live in the now.
No, for sure.
And I think there is reason for some optimism with this team, but they have a 2-game losing streak, and everybody's going to be jumping ship again. So that's just the nature of the fans. And right now, I think that this team is sort of at critical mass when it comes to the expectation of winning and the disappointment of losing, and they need to have success this year, or that's why I think there's going to be changes. I just add one thing before we switch the conversation to baseball. Josh Ho-Sang on a tryout contract has played really well. He had 3 assists playing with Bunting on the power play. All those goals were power play goals. They seem to like what he's doing. I don't think he's made any really major mistakes. He seems to be towing the line of what because
he make the team.
He's not going to make the team, but I think what he's going to do, and he said the right things. He says, if they want me to play in the ECHL, I'll play in the ECHL. Yeah. What I think they're going to do, because now maybe they sign him to an NHL contract and he'll go through waivers and nobody will claim him. But I think since he's played well, I think they'll sign him to an AHL contract, and he'll go with the Marlies, and he'll play. And if he plays well down there, he's an older player. They could then sign him to an NHL contract, and then they could call him up. So I think that might be the way to go. Nikita Gusev has been almost, except for a couple nice moves in shootouts, has been almost a ghost. I mean, I've barely seen anything. So I would be shocked if he doesn't get released from his tryout by the end of training camp.
Yeah. If it were up to me, you wouldn't play unless you're a 200-foot player. I don't care if you're a star. I don't care if you're a support guy. I don't care if you're here for a couple of weeks. If you're not a 200-foot player and you don't know how to play defense, in addition to offense and everything else, you don't play for my organization or for my team. And Nikita Gusev is clearly a one-dimensional player. Wanted to get a look-see. No harm, no foul. We've gone a bit long. This all or nothing thing on Amazon, I want nothing to do with it, because all it's doing is highlighting a season that ended in failure. And I am not at that age where I want to, hang out with Austin Matthews at a sushi restaurant. I don't care what these guys talk to each other about in the dressing room. There was a time when I cared about that, and I was interested in that, and that would fuel my day. But I just want to see these kids play. And again, I'm not a boomer. I'm not an old man. I've been down the road too many times with this team, and I don't really care about all of the fame and the minutia. Yeah. All I want is this team to play really good hockey. That's all I want. For everyone else who wants to relitigate that season, watch it over again, knowing how it all ends, but seeing it from a different perspective, I understand that. For me, I'm completely uninterested in that show and whatever.
I like I said, I got an early screener of it, and I watched.
Of course.
I knew I had to talk about it and write about it, and because people were going to watch it. I mean, honestly, does anybody really want to in Toronto want to relive the misery of the disappointment of last year? No, but I think they're also curious about the sort of inner workings and getting to know the players a little better and their personalities. And, being somebody who covered the team on a day-to-day basis a few years ago, and, I was not up in Canada last year because of the pandemic, but I've seen and been in scrums with Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner and Tavares. So I know these guys in terms of their personalities in a professional setting. This is less of a professional setting, but does it really, are fans really interested in, Austin Matthews coming to the rink with his dog, or William Nylander renting a bunch of race cars and having his teammates race around a track around Toronto? I mean, okay, fine. I thought the thing,
these guys aren't. The thing is, the only reason why anyone cares, and at least since 67, is because Toronto's a massive market, biggest market in hockey, most passionate fans and stuff like that. Look, the most players in the history of NHL hockey have come from Canada. The most players within Canada have come from Ontario. The most players have come from the GTA. It's the capital of hockey in many ways. But I don't exalt these guys and worship them because they're Maple Leafs any longer. They haven't been good enough to do anything great other than look good and fat and memes and have outrageous fans follow them and believe they're the next thing to God. But collectively, they haven't won anything. So this following them like they're idols or stars or something like that is just overvaluing who they are, really. Well, they haven't done anything. Well, they're not Sidney Crosby, not Alex Ovechkin. They have won jack shit. Win some championships, be legends, and then I'll start watching what you guys do and how you feed your dog and all this other shit. Other than that, I don't really care about that. But again, I'm 45 and I have other things to do, like look after a family and try to keep people keep this train on the tracks, right? I don't have time for that shit.
Yeah, I don't think that was obviously that wasn't the purpose of the series, was to put them on a pedestal and it being a vanity exercise. It was sort of like, okay, let's see the inner workings. And there were some instances where I did. I mean, honestly, like it was not aimed.
Show the Tampa Bay Lightning. I know this is for Canada, but
they don't care about the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Who cares? But
why
do we care about Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner and William Nylander or what they're doing?
Because they're the most popular team in Canada. That's why. Anyway,
start winning. Mike Newsom, a friend of mine and a listener of the podcast, sent me this 1972 baseball extra. Way back then, Mike, after your first marriage, 72, they were shitting on Dick Allen, the enigma of Richie Allen. What a guy. Wikipedia or Google him. What a guy. I just sort of segueing to baseball real quick, just for a couple minutes. And I know that you guys hate baseball, but Mike and I love it. We're going to take a couple minutes. I am wearing my Washington Nationals hat today because I'm cheering for them to beat Mike's Boston Red Sox.
Oh, yeah.
Because if they do, the Jays, I'm expecting, will obliterate the Orioles today. We'll get into a one-game scenario, tiebreak, or even the wild card, because I'm excited about the Blue Jays. That's an exciting team, unlike the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, well, they were really exciting when giving up 5 home runs to the Yankees.
I know. So, yeah. The Yankees beat the Jays 2 of 3. Big. It was monumental because like that gave the Yankees a little more distance, but it wasn't like they swept them or dominated them or anything like that. Anyway, it's not a Jays versus.
But it comes down to the final series of the year and Boston playing Washington, who's one of the worst.
The Yankees playing Tampa, and Tampa doesn't want to let up.
the Blue Jays playing Baltimore and the Leafs playing Tampa, and nothing would give Tampa greater joy than to knock the Yankees out, because they hate the Yankees because the Yankees are more popular in Tampa than Tampa is. And that's why Tampa is going to be playing games in Montreal next year, because they're such a loser franchise in terms of their fan base. They're a great franchise in terms of winning and in terms of their formula. But I despise the Tampa Bay Rays. It's maybe because they win paying $50 million when the Leafs, the
Montreal Rays.
The Montreal Rays, yeah, they're supposed to play 41 games in Montreal next year. But I mean, there's the possibility of a 4-way tie. There's a four, and I don't know. And I don't
tiebreak game. Could they play 2 tiebreak games, then a wild card, then a?
They would have to. They would have to. I mean, I'm looking at the scenario here, and if the Yankees and the Red Sox lose and the Blue Jays and the Mariners win, it's a 4-way tie. And I don't know. I would think then it comes down to tiebreakers, and then there would have to be 2 games. And remember, with Seattle in this, you could have a situation where Toronto flies to Seattle on Monday to play the Mariners.
It's fun. It's exciting. Ted from Florida. I'm here, guys. A little late. That's okay, Teddy. Watch the rest of this and then start it over again. No, this is exciting. I'm excited about it. And wouldn't it be great to have from my perspective, have the Jays somehow get in? I wouldn't expect them to win the World Series, but just be in the playoffs. This is the World Series to me right now. With the Leafs getting into the playoffs is great, but you've been doing that. Now you need to start winning some rounds. And it's interesting how I give the Jays more rope than the Leafs. If the Leafs get to the playoffs and win a round, they better win 2 and 3 more rounds. I wouldn't be satisfied with just like I want that team to win a Stanley Cup, even if it's technically or on paper not good enough to do it. With the Blue Jays, considering how they've rebuilt, just making into a wild card position again and maybe getting into a division series would be good enough for me. But these teams are at different levels of where we expect them to be at this point.
Just think of it this way, because I mean, I've been awed by the Blue Jays' late season run and their success, and their lineup. Yeah. Their lineup is fantastic, but Simeon's probably gone. They're not going to be able to pay him because he had 44 home runs.
Well, they'll pay Robbie Ray.
I don't know. I mean, if they should. Rogers should. I mean, because he's probably either going to be 1 or 2 for the Cy Young. And I mean, you got Berrios for another year. You've got young guys like Manoah, who I think has had a fantastic rookie year, and they hope.
But you're talking like Mike. There's that the Jays will get to this point, and then next year be in last place.
No.
Don't you think this team is on the rise? Like,
yes, I do. Yes, I do. But the thing is, you're going to one of the reasons why you've had such success is you've got a second baseman who has set the major league record for home runs, and he's probably gone.
You can replace him.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you can replace a guy, I mean, honestly,
you can't replace Robbie Ray. He's 29. He's in his prime.
Right.
He's a battler. If you have $25 million a year to pay one of those guys, it has to go to Robbie Ray. I love Marcus Semien for sure. But he's had an unbelievable career year. Like, he ends up with the Yankees, right? Like where they all end up in New York.
Yeah.
And they don't, unless it's Aaron Judge or someone in house, they never perform the same way with the Yankees as they did with the teams that they earned all the money with, right? With Semien, I'm not expecting him to be back. I'm sure he would listen to what the Jays have to offer, but man, he can call his own shot wherever the hell he wants to go. The Jays just have to continue to build with this young core, and they do. They have some cats coming up through the system, but the Jays will be a force to be reckoned with in this bloody division for several years to come. And if there's success and they win some championships or get to the playoffs on a consistent basis, that'll set the table for more players to want to come north of the border. I mean, the Yankees are the Yankees, man. Everybody wants to play with them. They're perennial contenders, and that's a destination.
Yeah.
The Jays, it goes up and down, right? And it's not because Toronto's a backwater; it's just because the perception of the organization. Right now, it's on the ascent. Last word to you, brother. Gotta go.
Yeah, just to say, the Yankees are in the same place the Leafs are. If the Yankees don't make the playoffs, they you could see Cashman and Boone gone. I mean, they've been there. They've been at least Cashman's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
But if they make the playoffs and they make a run, then they probably are safe. So
how do they make the run? How do they make the run though? Just guys like Garrett Cole. He's a great pitcher, but he's looked pedestrian lately. I mean, how do they make their run?
Well, I mean, lately is the key word, because he was dominant for most of the year. Then he hurt a hamstring, and he's been not good the last four starts.
I understand.
Right. I mean, that happens. No, I mean, I think even if the Yankees have success, there are going to be some changes, just like with the Blue Jays. I mean, I think we talked about Gary Sanchez. We talked about possibly them. I think they're going to be in the market for a shortstop, because they're going to move things around. So and
Marcus Semien wants to play shortstop. So yeah, I could. You know what? I'm calling it. He's going to the Yankees. But right now he's a Blue. Well, they'll pay him. They'll pay him. What is he? What is he going to want?
I think they would rather go after Corey Seager or Trevor Story. So
really,
yeah,
they won't cost as much, will they?
No, and that's the whole. They're under the luxury tax now, and we're talking about there's going to be a season next year. There might not be a season because there's going to be a lockout. So this is all fantasy right now, and
you and I are talking baseball, and everybody in the chat's still talking about the Maple Leafs. I don't understand it. We're like huge hockey fans, but we love baseball too. It's okay to like other sports, Yes. Especially right about now. This is it. Game 162. It's going to be a lot of fun, and maybe there's an excitement that I can bottle up and apply to the Maple Leafs and their next preseason game against one of the same damn teams they play all the time. Tony, seriously, bud, we love you, but baseball's not boring at all. It is what it is. Mike, good luck to your Yankees. Bad luck to the Red Sox. Good luck to my Jays, and good luck to the Leafs this season to come. They're a really good team, but I'm really not excited about much. I need a puck to drop, and I need some goals to be scored, and I need some crowds to cheer, and really, I'll get going. Anyway, is that it? Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, Norm.
Yeah.